Picture this. Country X conducts presidential elections. A president-elect is announced but never gets to be president, following a contestation of the electoral results in the country's highest courts. That has happened in national courts in Africa, in Kenya and Malawi to be exact. It was only in June this year that we saw asylum seekers aboard a plane from the United Kingdom, ready to be shipped off to Rwanda. At the 11th hour, a decision by the European Court of Human Rights halted the deportation flight in its tracks. My name is Kisakye, a PhD candidate and research associate at the African Multiple Cluster of Excellence, the University of Bayreuth. I'm greatly puzzled by the growing political relevance of international courts on the African continent. I keep wondering why, despite the growing attacks and backlash that they may face, these courts are still keeping strong, advancing democratic processes, calling out governments for breach of their own laws, and may even dare to dream one day stopping a flight on its tracks, as we've seen earlier. But while we know a lot about what has happened in Western countries and the role of courts, not so much is known about the African continent, and it's even worse when we look at international courts. To fill this gap, my dissertation takes the East African Court of Justice as its case study, and it asks, how can we understand court power by centering actors in and around these courts? I have used what I call a follow the court approach, where I visited the court as it moved through various countries, starting with its seat in Arusha, Tanzania, all the way to Bujumbura in Burundi, speaking to judges, conducting interviews, participating in court events, and have even attended a few legal trainings, even if I'm not a lawyer myself. So some of the things I found out is that judges and lawyers are active proponents in creating their power, which I'm calling constructing court power. And it is through strategies that they may employ that they're able to fend off undue interference and effect change through litigation in these courts. I have found that judges are willing to go beyond rigid court processes. They are carefully considering remedies that they're issuing. And at times when they're attacked, they may craftily record these intimidations and pressures in their decisions. They're also finding ways to enforce compliance to their rulings. In sum, I think that research on judicial politics can shed a light on the peculiar conditions in which African courts work, specifically through my focus on international courts, and could help inform policymakers, international organizations, and tell a story that's usually ignored. Well, we have to understand more about the third branch of government. Thank you for listening.